they're not your friend. And, just as, when people are arrested, they're told that anything you say will be used against you. The same is true for auto insurance carriers and adjusters. They ask you questions. People don't always realize that what they say may not be true indefinitely. So if I ask you right after an accident happens, how are you feeling? Because of all the adrenaline flowing, you might not feel so bad. But if I ask you 2 days later, you might be in a world of hurt and very sore. But, they always don't ask you, well, do you have any other injuries or do you feel okay? And once you say yes, they're trying to lock you in and basically saying you're back to normal, even though that's probably not the case. And so I think you just have to be careful what you say to them. Now, if it's your own insurance carrier, you may be required to give certain statements to them, but I think you want to at least meet with a lawyer if you haven't hired one to kind of prep you for what that interaction is and what the purpose is, because the purpose is not necessarily to help you get money. The purpose is how can we deny giving you as much money as you want.
No, absolutely.
And then, treatment wise, like I said earlier, you just want to get treatment as soon as you need it. And that may be instantaneous after the accident or may not happen until a couple of days later. But as soon as you start having pain or thinking something's wrong, at least get checked out. And then, once you're checked out, you can figure out what the issue is and whether you need any further care at that point or not. So those would be kind of the three main things I would tell people.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, but the swelling and everything that happens after an accident doesn't necessarily happen immediately. Things get worse before they get better. So for sure, are there certain damage thresholds or case characteristics that signal when somebody really needs a lawyer representation versus trying to handle it on their own?
Yeah, I think if you view it from the perspective of what the insurance company is going to do if you don't have a lawyer, it's probably the best way to look at it, because I always feel like there's different buckets of adjusters, and the people that you deal with initially, if you're not represented by an attorney, their goal is, how can I get this claim to go away the fastest by paying the least amount of money? And they're not worried about evaluating your claim. They're not worried about whether you've finished treating. They're worried about, how do I resolve this claim and close it so you can't come after their insured again? And those kind of frontline adjusters, most of the time, what they're going to offer is like $1,000, maybe $2,000 if you're lucky in most situations. If it's more catastrophic, maybe they'll get up to 10 or something. But it's always going to be a very small fraction of probably what your cases were. And so, I tell clients, if they've got to an ER and have some follow-ups, and they're looking at their bills are probably, between 7 to 10,000. I mean, that's probably justifiable to get an attorney, because they're never going to get that by just dealing independently with an adjuster, right? I've had clients who I meet with shortly after an accident, and they're kind of hung up. They, don't know whether they're an attorney or not. And so, they go home, they are going to handle a couple more months by themselves, and they come back 6 months later saying, I'm just frustrated. We've got nowhere with these adjusters. Maybe they've offered another $500. We want you to handle it. And like, I told you that was going to happen. And,
Yeah.
could have resolved it sooner, but, sometimes people just have to kind of see that to believe it, I guess.
No, for sure. And I think maybe they appreciate the work a lawyer has to go through sometimes trying to deal with it on their own.
And sometimes when you're dealing with an adjuster directly, sometimes what they offer is kind of weird. Like, they might say, I'll give you $1,000 and we'll cover your bills for the next 30 days or something if you have any more treatment. And they're banking on you not having any more treatment or very little. And so, sometimes 30 days, you might know what's wrong. Sometimes you may not. I mean, if you've got a headache for a couple of weeks, it's going to take some time just to kind of fully see what's going on. And same with, any sort of injuries where you have swelling, stuff doesn't instantaneously pop up on an x-ray.